Increlution got featured by Sift a little bit ago, and it has 11 chapters in the early access right now. So I did that. Just gonna run through it and whatchamacallit, turn off all the automation so that I can actually explain what's going on instead of it being literally like 3 seconds for the first 5 chapters. Ugh, this is annoying. You know what? I'm gonna pause and do this off camera. Okay, there. Everything except for collection turned off. Speaking of which, collection's already done for this section. Gather berries, cut wood. It is still at 0000. Anyway, first step is to explore the area, which takes 0 seconds. After exploring the area, you found a lake. There appears to be fish in it. Perhaps you can catch some. Oh look, they've already been caught. So, next, explore the cave again. The cave appears to consist mostly of stone. That's useful for construction. It also seems that there's an exit at the other end of the cave. Sadly, there seems to be a rather big spider preventing passage. So, this increases your health decay while you're fighting. I have some powers that decrease it, but usually it increases your health decay by 5, which when you start out with like 10 HP, 100 HP total, that can be fairly hefty, considering it also won't be taking 0 seconds. The health decay times the amount of time taken is how much health you're actually going to be losing for doing these combats. So having 4.84 million HP and a frankly ridiculous combat modifier makes these early things take absolutely no HP at all. Spider removed. Well done. The path to the other side of the cave appears to be clear now. However, it seems like there aren't any berries on the other side. It does look like there are some kind of trees, though. So this is the last time that you can get berries, which means you should be going through this with a full stock if you want to keep that 5 HP per berry. Which at this point is like, I don't know, 50 total. Well, I'm gonna just build the carts and whatnot before anything else happens. It's still not even a second into it, and I've already started messing up. The moment you have the ability to build the wooden hut, you should. Because it reduces the amount of health that you lose per second. So the stone hut is exactly the same. Takes longer, takes more stuff. Ah, that's why I was gaining time, because I forgot to actually build these things. Stone, wood, berries, fish. So the fish, you require a campfire to actually cook on in order to make into edible fish. That's 4 times better than berries or so. Let's see, wooden cart increases your inventory, and that increased how much stuff I've got. So berries increased. I'll be keeping those. Stone cart, same thing, but uses stone. Okay, so everything maxed out. And that took more time because usually, apparently, my automation does not have carts going before berries stop being a thing that's harvestable. Probably because in the long run, they're kind of worthless. I say, having 4.84 million HP and these healing 5. Explore cave exit. You've made it to the other side of the cave. It looks like there are apples hanging from those trees. They look edible. And that's the most important thing about food, that it be edible. So you cannot cross the bridge or the lake unless you build the bridge. It is your introduction to items required for exploration. Making it to the other side of the lake felt easy with this bridge. There also seems to be rabbits on this side of the lake. You can probably hunt some. However, it seems there is also a wolf on this side of the lake. You know what needs to be done. It will take 0 seconds. And it does about 20 health decay per second. So much for that wolf. You're getting pretty good at this. Now that you're able to see a bit further, it appears that there is a shore nearby. So apparently my increase in combat modifier has made up for the fact that I've spent extra time getting more berries. Explore the shore. It seems there's an island on the other side of the water, but it's definitely too far away for a bridge to cover. Perhaps some floating object could help here. And again, you cannot do the board raft until you have made the raft. It takes a lot of wood, so you better have a good wood cutting skill by now. Yeah, that's 0 change in effective time. Board raft makes you lose access to all your materials, so you better be stocked up. Sail to island. All aboard and ready to set sail. This is going to be a tough ride, especially since you can't reach most of the resources now. Let's hope your preparations will suffice. It was a tough ride, but you've made it to the island. All sorts of new adventures await you here. Walk to village. Fish don't seem to swim that far inland, but there are probably people there. And indeed, you've made it to the village. It appears to be quite a cozy little town. There are quite a few people living here. Let's get to know them. And you have to meet all of them before you can do anything else. Fortunately, every single one of these guys gives you something new. So you probably want to start with the fisher, because A, he's the easiest, and B, he lets you catch herrings, which are significantly better than absolutely nothing that you have access to otherwise. Thanks to the fisher, you know how to catch herring. Delicious for raw consumption, especially with pickles and onions, but just raw will do. The farmer, on the other hand, gives you access to grain and the ability to bake bread out of that grain. The farmer seems fond of you and says that you can gather grain wherever you want, as long as you don't hurt the chickens, which seems fair. And then I think I usually skip I used to skip the miner to go straight to the baker, because the baker gives you cake, which gives you more food capability, which also lets you build the stone and also lets you build the stone oven. Maybe I do the miner first. I don't know. I already turned off all the automation, so I have no way of remembering. After a very pleasant chat, the baker decides to share an old family recipe for cake with you. It takes quite a while to bake, but it tastes better than bread. The baker decided to also share an old family secret with you. Baking works better in an oven than on a campfire. So that gives a straight up 25% increase to your cooking modifier. So this would go up by times 1.25 instead of like just a flat bonus like anything you would expect. It does require copper though, so you do need to meet the miner first before you can build it. Okay. Miner was very open to you and allows you to use the mine whenever you want. It contains stone like you're used to, but also some copper that seems a bit trickier to dig. That might just be useful for other forms of construction. So now you get the first combat multiplier as well. That is not useful unless you can actually get through the entire village, so less a priority until you can get your social skill modifier up a bit. So there we go. The oven is built, so now cake and bread will take less time to cook. Definitely important. So the mayor tells you they have a bit of a bandit problem on the island. Perhaps you'd be so nice as to take care of that for them. After that wolf story, they seem confident that you can. So entering the forest is not the best idea to do it immediately. Got to get that copper club first, because the forest is where you will be going up against the bandits. Somewhat into the forest, you run into a group of people that are having a campfire party. They obviously recognize that you're a cool person and invite you to join them. Probably not the best idea if you want to take care of the bandit problem. But on the other hand, it sounds fun. I have never once skipped this because A, it's social, which is training, and you need social in order to even get to this part. The more social you have, the more HP you're going to have going into the bandit fights, so there's absolutely no reason not to train that at every opportunity. And it doubles your maximum health gain after life if you manage to complete it, so yeah, there's absolutely no reason not to do that. Well, that was a fun party. You've met a ton of new people and had a great time. Time to get back to that bandit problem. So then you explore the forest again. There's boars and wolves in the forest. This particular pack of wolves seems persistent in not letting you pass. You know how to handle those, but it seems like there are quite a few of them. It's hard to tell with them moving around so much, but there's probably about 5 to 7 of them. The wolves aren't going to let you pass. Boots. Increases the multiplier of your agility skill by 25. Increases the multiplier of your sailing skill by 25. So, no reason not to build both of these. And then the wolf pack takes 0 seconds. Boop. Well done. All wolves have been either defeated or fled from you. Admittedly, all that fighting made you completely lose track of where you were, and you're somewhat lost in the forest now. Okay, so the hide that you used for those previous upgrades, the sail and the boots, came from Hunt Boar. The boars give you both the boar and the hide. So if you're being efficient, you probably only want to have enough boars that you have a full stack of dead boars, and then cook them, and then get more hides for the constructions. And, you know, not have it fill up your entire inventory with hide and uncooked dead boar. Because, you know, you need to actually use your efficiency sometimes. So the treehouse is what unlocks use lookout, but search forest gives more agility training XP. So if you really just need to get through quickly, you probably can search the forest considering the agility multiplier, but in my opinion, you just want to get the treehouse built, because that's woodcutting XP, and then you right click on use lookout, which gets you the XP for doing the lookout, and then search forest, because that gives you more XP total. The lookout really does not do anything for you except for give you more HP for the bandits. Then again, you could say the same thing about the search forest. Neither of them actually give you anything except for various amounts of agility XP. So convincing the bandits is easier because you don't take damage during the convince. It does take significantly longer though. Convincing with your fist, though, in my opinion, is better because you are going to be automating this probably, and that gives you combat XP, which is more important in the long run, I think, than social XP, because, again, the faster you combat, the less HP damage you're taking from combat. You managed to convince the bandits to leave the island through the power of your fists, but it appears that these bandits were linked to a bigger group that hides out on a nearby ship. Maybe you should take care of that as well. Let's head back to town to discuss with the mayor. So that's your last opportunity to hunt boars. You got a little lost on the way back again, but you've made it back to the village. Time to inform the mayor about the bandit situation. So at this point, you're probably going to want to grab as much food as you can, because through that forest, you probably lost like all of your HP. But then you talk to the mayor, and the mayor has this idea that these sea bandits might actually be called pirates. In any case, you can probably take care of them too. As a token of gratitude, the mayor also tells you that you can build a house in the village if you want to. And that, again, decreases your health decay by 50%. Takes a lot of materials. But hey, that's XP. Down to 0.06 per second. Nice that this has all been done in, like, a tenth of a second. Automation is great. Board raft. All ready to set sail. Let's see what these sea bandits are all about. Sailed ship. Completely worthless in terms of HP damage. I don't think I ever failed in this section. Board ship to take care of whoever's on there. You made it to the ship. Time to board it to take care of the pirates once and for all. Fight deckhand. Takes 0 seconds. Now that you're on the deck, it seems that a deckhand wants to get you off the deck. But that's not to that deckhand, is it? Deckhand dealt with, but one of the cannoneers charges right at you. Cannoneer removed from the ship. Most of the other pirates seem to flee the ship by now. However, the captain does not seem to be leaving the ship without a fight. This should be the last pirate to take care of. Captain removed. Ship empty. Well done. That takes care of the entire bandit problem that the village was having. But wait, some kind of huge octopus seems to attack the ship. That's going to be trouble. Probably a lot of it too. So this one is problematic because it is the first instance of completing this exploration triples your health decay and loses most of your inventory. So most of the ones beyond this don't lose your uncooked food. This one, however, does. You're stuck with whatever cooked food you have and whatever you pick up beyond this point. So there's no point in keeping a massive store of grain or raw boars when you get out of the forest. Well, Octopus defeated, it seems. You seem to have lost consciousness for what feels like 5 minutes, and that has taken a toll on your health decay. You seem to have lost most of your inventory somewhere in the ocean as well. That could be a problem. But your construction somehow washed ashore. You're in some kind of cavern that touches the ocean. Perhaps there's some things to be found around here. Health decay tripled. So this is a priority because it gets you to another hut. You found an exit to the seaside cave. It ends at a sunny beach with palm trees. Do this and boom, health decay is back down. Not as far as it could be, but it's down below what it would be if it was still tripled. And then the raft will increase your sailing multiplier, which is great. And then explore beach, because what else are you gonna do? The beach appears to be part of a rather big land. You even see some mountains in the distance. You see 2 ways to venture forth from here. There is a river leading inland and an old mine shaft. It seems to be one or the other. The choice is yours. So, in the very, very short term, Ward River is best. It gets you to a new food source. It gets you a new construction to work on. And then it hits you with like a 20,000 damage right off the bat. So, very short term, best. Then the mine shaft takes you to a combat area. That lets you grind combat XP. It also gives you a construction for another combat multiplier. Absolutely brilliant for the midterm. I would recommend automating that until you can actually get through it. However, in the very, very long term, back to Board River. Now that you're on the river, you won't be able to enter the mine anymore. But crabs and coconut trees seem to surround the river still, so that's useful. Paddle upstream. You've made it to a fallen tree that has crashed into the river. It leads to a small piece of land that contains some other trees with yellow things in it. Perhaps these are edible. There are also some tools lying around that appear to be left by someone that is long gone. You might be able to repair those. So, there's another shoes, which increases your multiplier. That's great. There's another cart, which increases your inventory capacity, which is necessary for like 3 chapters from now. And then there's... keep going. So, you've made it to a waterfall. No wonder the current was going so strong here. As you know, almost every waterfall has a cave behind it. So let's bet on this being such a waterfall as well. Passing through a waterfall is going to hurt, though. Yeah, 25k damage. Ouch, that hurt. You've made it through a waterfall. And as expected, there's a cave behind it. Let's see what's in this cave. So that ate a single berry. No, it ate 11 berries. 10 fish, 10 apples. It probably took a pretty equal number of everything, and then everything just refilled from the current jobs. So I do still have 9 berries left after taking 25k damage. That's not bad. Explore the cave. Uh-oh, a bear. As cute as it might look, it looks far more dangerous. So, fleeing from the bear is what I did for the first, 10 loops, until I actually had enough combat XP from going through the mines to actually fight it. It does a lot of damage per second. So, and as you can see, it's the first thing that does not take 0 seconds. So here we have all the XP from fleeing from the bear. And here we have all the XP for fighting the bear. And also the doubling max health after life. Oh wow, you've actually beaten the bear. Nice job. Now that that's over and done with, it's actually really easy to see if there's an exit to the cave somewhat higher. It shouldn't be too hard to climb there. So once you do that, you do not have the ability to pick any food or, get more wood. So stock up before you do that. Climb mountain. You're further inland and are somewhat and you are on somewhat higher ground. You see a rather big mountain in front of you and a path leading up to it. There seems to be some kind of temple on the mountain. Let's see what that's about. You've climbed a fair bit of the mountain and made it to a ravine. You'll need to cross it somehow. Oh, and it looks like you're not alone here. There are mountain goats around. They're decent food. That's all I really have to say about goats. So jumping across the ravine does 50k damage. So it's great if you have no need for, a massive stock of food. And it decreases your health decay because it takes less time. But at this point, it's a 0.06 second difference. I'm just going to walk around. You've made it to the other side of the ravine, the safe way. You see a temple a little higher up in the mountains and hear some gong sound in the distance. You've made it to the temple. It appears to be populated by monks. They don't talk much, or at all, but they do seem to be training and seems to be welcoming you to join them. So, the way of the tiger, a fast and agile beast. You've been taught the way of the tiger, useful when you have a need to be agile. Goat, a stable beast that can withstand almost any trembles. You've been taught the way of the goat. By balancing on your raft in the pond, you now know how to conquer bigger waves. This one is the important one, really. The Way of the Bear. It's combat, it does the same amount of health decay as Bear, and it gives you combat XP. You've been taught the Way of the Bear. Useful when raw power benefits your goals. Everything beyond this point is going to take more HP from you in combat than a bear, so it's useful to get the combat XP when you can. And then parrot teaching from the, silent monks. You've been taught the way of the parrot by talking a lot. The monks didn't even talk back. It was a little awkward, to be honest. And then you cannot follow additional teachings if you climb, so, best to grind out that XP. Unless you're at a wall later on, then you should probably just, turn off the ones that you're not having immediately applicable to your situation, just to have a little bit extra HP when you get to your wall. You've reached a point where it starts to snow. That must be due to the height. Moving through the cold ahead might take a toll on your health. And look, it's another double your health decay. Ugh. The cold is pretty severe. You've made it to some sort of glacier. You hear the sound of some giant lizard-like screech, which is probably what the monks tried to warn you about. This is still less than 1 second. So, climbing down is probably your best bet if you have no ability to actually kill this thing. On the other hand, if you can't kill it, you should probably still fight it as much as you can, because you're going to be able to hunt goats, cook goats, and then climb down at the end anyway. If you do manage to beat it, double your health gain after next life. So that's great. Lizard taken care of, but the screeches don't seem to stop. You see another lizard being eaten by some sort of winged, bigger lizard pretty close. This thing is huge already and eats those lizards for breakfast, yet it seems to not be fully matured either. Double health gain again. So if you're able to easily beat the lizard, you're probably still going to get killed by the baby dragon. And if you beat the baby dragon, you're probably still going to get killed by the regular dragon. Baby dragon defeated. Well done. However, it seems that angered an even bigger dragon. This thing looks magnificent and incredibly dangerous. It is, however, very important that you do manage to defeat this dragon, for reasons that will become clear in about 2 more chapters. That one took almost like 20% of the total time for this entire run so far. That dragon is tough. Wow, you've actually defeated a dragon. You might just get featured in Legends and Tales now. And then you climb down. Finally. You've made it to the bottom of the mountain. It is pretty clear that the waterfall was on the other side of the mountain, as there appears to be no water here. All vegetation seems unable to survive here, and there's only sand in sight. It's probably best to travel on with only essentials, as this journey is going to be tough. So, cocoa wood gets tossed. Enter desert will remove that. You keep your raw crabs and your dead goats, though. It does double your health decay, so boop, 0.38. Ugh. Still not as much as it was at 0 seconds. I think it was starting at 0.6 or something like that. On the other hand, immediately doubles your health decay again. So you've made it somewhat into the desert. At this point, you're mostly seeing a lot of sand and the heat is a little uncomfortable. But you're developing a bit of a tan and see something that looks like water in the distance. Uh-oh. It looks like what seemed like water was actually a distortion of sight because of the heat. There is no water here. But even worse, you're being attacked by vultures. Well, it's not what you were expecting when walking to what seemed to be an oasis, but you know how to deal with creatures like this. Hopefully you've got combat by now. Vultures dealt with. Who's the predator or the prey now, huh? You're also seeing some weird brown triangle in the distance. You may as well check out what that is. So, that doubles your health decay again. 0.75 to 1.51. Ugh. Having walked all the way here, you're seeing a massive structure built out of clay blocks. It has certainly been here for a while. It seems to have an entrance in the front, but it's unclear what's inside of it. Your health decay has doubled. And entering the pyramid does not increase your decay, but it does double your maximum health gain after life. There's no reason not to do this thing immediately. So now is the part where you have to do choices. Personally, I recommend doing it top to bottom because this gives you food. This gives you food, but it also takes like 5 times as long. So it's less efficient food. And this one is what you do after you have the ability to actually do it. Because it has a hut in it. And, you know, that decreases your decay. You want to do that ASAP. The pyramid seems to contain 3 ancient temples and some sort of crypt. There are also some hieroglyphs painted on the wall, which give you the idea of some constructions. Although it's unclear if that's what they actually mean. This temple is marked with a pretty red gem. So, immediately, dig clay. And then you use dig clay to build clay hut. Nice. That halved health decay again. Back below 1 per second. Have almost lost 1 HP at this point. This temple appears to be very sandy. It appears to contain some sort of clay that the pyramid itself seems to be built from. Oh, and the door suddenly closed behind you. To venture further, it seems that you need to pass some scarabs that live here. So this one is combat, so another reason not to immediately go for it. If you can't beat a dragon, you probably don't want to do this first. Because, again, you'll only have vultures and, like, goats at this point. Path cleared. You see some red glittering in the clay ahead. That may just be a gemstone. And now this takes, like, 10 minutes. Your instincts were right. You found a ruby gemstone in the clay. It seems that there is another one a little higher, but it's blocked by a massive boulder that is clearly placed as a trap. You can try to grab it, but you're also able to reach the exit of this temple. Catching this thing might not be such a good idea, but it's the only way to obtain what's behind it. Finishing this exploration causes you to lose 300,000 health at once. It's worth it. There goes most of the food. So, the thing that you want to make first, assuming that you can actually do this, is the gem pendant. Increasing the multiplier of all your skills by 10% is amazing. If you can't, small shrine, because double health maximum gain after life. Woo. Anyway, leave the area. Ouch, that boulder proved to be an effective trap, just not effective enough to stop you. Grabbing the gemstone behind it was easy with the boulder out of the way. Ruby Temple cleared. Once all temples have been explored, the crypt might just open. So now, might as well do the Emerald Temple, because at this point, I am too powerful for order to matter. Well, this temple hasn't been cleaned for a while, clearly. There's moss everywhere, and the door suddenly closed behind you. To venture further, it seems that you need to pass some sort of spike trap. So the moss, absolutely terrible. Good HP though. So this deals 155, I think, thousand damage. But the moss, if you have a big enough inventory, should be enough to counteract that. Because it takes out of your total food reserve. Yeah, that's enough. Particularly if you get here early enough that you actually have some stuff from outside. After you've done that, you can carve out the gem. Spike trap passed. It certainly did hurt, but let's move on. Now that you've made it a little further into the temple, you see an ancient gemstone carved into a wooden statue. That might just be useful for those construction ideas you got from the hieroglyphs. You mostly destroyed the statue in the process, but now have an emerald gemstone. It looks like there's also a chameleon guarding another gemstone behind it, but you're also able to reach the exit of this temple. So, now that there are 3 gems, pendant. That also increases combat strength, which is great because combat has immediately arrived. Well, it stopped changing colors, and you have another gemstone because of it. Then might as well start on the small shrine. Need 1 gemstone to complete it. Emerald exits. So, Sapphire Temple. Emerald Temple cleared. It seems that once all temples have been explored, the crypt might open. This temple is entirely flooded with water that could only be described as dirty. There seem to be animals living in the water, but it's hard to see through it. It might be best to proceed on your raft. So this is why you always do the goat training until you can actually do all of these areas. Because, you know, sailing XP. Every time you do it, you increase your generation level, and that's an extra multiplier. Paddle in Temple. Takes 0.03 seconds. Takes a lot longer if you don't have a massive multiplier. Halfway through the temple, you're being attacked by a group of piranhas. You should be able to fight them off. So, this takes time again. They do more damage than the bear, as usual. You manage to scare off the piranhas. Now that the water is a little clearer, you see a shiny blue gemstone at the bottom. It might be better not to enter the water just in case, but your fishing skills should do the trick. And this will take another like 20 minutes until you have a massive multiplier. Swimming would probably have been more efficient, but you've gotten the gemstone out of the water. But it was probably a good idea not to go swimming, as you now notice a crocodile guarding another gemstone. You should be able to pass it and paddle right to the temple exit though. But what's the fun in that? Take out the crocodile, and you can now build everything. The entire pyramid has been completed. Sapphire Temple cleared. When all temples are cleared, the crypt should open its doors. Even if you didn't fight the crocodile, you'd immediately get thrown into another combat anyway, so there's no reason not to do that. The more combat you have, the faster every subsequent combat goes, and the less damage you're going to be taking from them. And they always increase in how much damage you're taking per second, so might as well just grind XP on the lower level mobs. You've made it into the temple. Crypt of this pyramid is filled with all sorts of ancient treasures that are clearly here to respect an old soul that rests here. However, the passage appears to be guarded by an enormous scorpion. This beast seems unrealistically big for a scorpion, as if it was specifically bred to guard this crypt. Wow, that was an actual notable amount of time. With that scorpion out of the way, you're now able to fully grasp what's within this crypt. Aside from all the treasures, there's a sarcophagus in the middle of the crypt that particularly catches your eye. So now you want to have the ring produced, because that's a multiplier on social, and it decreases the amount of time you get for C sarcophagus. No matter how fast you do a thing, the amount of XP each task gives is static. So, the faster you do it, the faster you get that amount of XP. The sarcophagus almost looks like it wasn't built to honor the dead, but rather to imprison the dead. The inscriptions read, "Forgive us, brother. We saw no other way. Your power had to be stopped, or it would have become the end of us all." You're not exactly sure what that means, but feel a pressing urge to get out of here. Exit pyramid. Doubles your health decay. Ugh. You've made it out of the pyramid. It seems that a group of nomads has arrived at the front of the pyramid while you were inside. They look friendly. Let's meet them. They seem like a friendly group of people. If you did not build the ring, now is where the game decides to troll you by having like 10 social events in a row. The nomads were exactly as friendly as you expected. Just a nice bunch of people traveling the desert. They seemed very surprised when you told them you just came from the pyramid crypt, though. Apparently, nobody had ever been able to enter the crypt for hundreds of years. In any case, they were just heading back home and said you're welcome to hop along for the ride. It's a nice chance to get to know them better, too, without suffering from the heat too much. After a nice ride and a lot of fun stories, you've arrived at what the nomads referred to as home. Maybe they weren't really nomads. The city seems pretty big. Let's see if you can enter the city. And then persuade guards. If you don't have a 50,000 multiplier on social, you take 10k damage from, being outside in the desert. Really regret not having that ring if you didn't do that. It looks like not just anybody is allowed to enter the city. Residents only. Or perhaps you can persuade the guard. It took some persuasion, but the guard welcomes you into the city. With those social skills, you should fit in great. Enter city. Now that you're inside the city, you're starting to grasp just how big of a city it actually is. You hear a lot of noise, which seems to be coming from a market, but hear some ships sound in the distance as well. Let's see if the nomads can give you some directions. So they probably aren't really nomads, but they should be able to point you in the right direction in town. They seem surprised that you thought they were nomads in the first place. They're just a bunch of adventurers that happened to run into you in the desert. They say they're actually a group of a warrior, 2 rangers, a cleric, and 2 paladins. Which seems oddly specific. Anyway, you should definitely check out the market. There should be some food available there. After that, they also indicate that you should check out the docks, Lowtown, and maybe even Hightown. Let's see what kinds of trades are made here. And more social. You mostly see a lot of people, but there are some vendors as well. Some of them are selling oddly specific things, but you're particularly interested to see what sorts of food they have available around here. Because at this point, vultures aren't available to catch, and you have no food whatsoever. So, fruit vendor is not the best choice to make because it requires an agility check to actually get food afterward. So, pastries. The pastries vendor says that you can take some dough if you do the baking yourself. Some of it might expire by tomorrow anyway. Oh, and the vendor shares a little recipe with you for biscuits. Biscuits are great. So then, this vendor sells both wood and a colorful sort of fruit. You don't have any money, but being nice to people has always served you well. The fruit vendor says that you can take all the wood you want. It doesn't sell all that well, and starts to get in the way anyway. Additionally, the vendor tells you that some people stole fruit. If you take care of that, you can also pick as many oranges as you can eat. So, this requires a 1.5 million agility. Whew. It's great for grinding agility training, but it also gatekeeps oranges for quite a while. Those thieves did not want to give those orange fruit backs. At all. But they couldn't outrun you. The vendor thanks you and tells you that you can pick as many oranges as you want. Leave the market and go to the docks. The docks are quite big. There must be at least 20 ships docked here. You also see some people with some sort of wooden cages that appear to be fishing, and some others constructing boats. So, here you want to go rush boat builders. Citrus wood looks to be perfect for construction of boats. It's not that complicated either. Just make sure to make it waterproof. I don't actually know what happens if you don't build a boat here. You know what? I'll do that. If you build the boat, then you can also build a cabin afterward. So, cage fisher. It appears they are fishing lobsters with these cages. They tell you it's actually quite easy. Just build a cage and drop it in the water. These things just walk right in. So the lobster pot, you get lobsters. Imagine that. So just going to enter Lowtown without building a bridge. Or boat. See if that does anything. This seems to be the shady part of town. You walked around for a bit, entered an alley, and some people are already trying to rob you. Well, that's not having to, if you have anything to say about it. Fight robbers, combat skill, boom. Robbers scared away. With all of your possessions safe and secure, let's see if there are some nicer people in Lowtown. As you walk further into this alley, you came across a local tavern. It seems to be rather exclusive. Perhaps you can convince the bouncer to let you in, or you could just walk along. Again, social grind. Definitely want to do this ASAP. It definitely took some persuading, but the bouncer says you're able to enter. Let's see what's inside of this tavern. Now that you've entered the tavern, you see all sorts of people enjoying their time off. There seems to be some sort of dance battle, some cards being played, and a mysterious person sitting at the bar. Let's mingle. So, now is where it's important to have a 25 inventory capacity. Because, optional, but provides 5 silver coins upon completion. Phew, these people sure know how to dance, but not as well as you do. Have 5 silver coins for your efforts. It is very unlikely that you're actually going to complete any of these for like 100 loops. Until then, you can probably keep going down the mines. And then, even after you complete the first 2, keep going down the mines because you're not going to be completing this anytime soon. The trick is to read their faces and act quickly, but that requires some skill. You saw right through them and won at playing cards. The silver coins are yours. The tavern keeper indicates that this person only talks to dragon slayers. And this is why you have to kill the dragon. The mysterious person happens to be a dragon slayer too, just like you. The both of you are notably cooler than anyone else in this tavern for sure. But only one of you can be the coolest person in the tavern. And both of you know how that's settled. Dragons equals. Arm wrestling contest. This does 100,000 damage per second. It will not be successful for quite some time. But that brings you up to 20 out of 25 silver coins before you leave the tavern. That settles it. You are the coolest person in this tavern. No hard feelings, just a lot of respect. And 10 silver coins for your troubles. That was fun. The tavern had a great atmosphere. Now it's time to proceed into Lowtown. After walking further through the alleys, you run into what seems to be an orphanage. Let's see if you can help them out. Okay, looks like these kids are very well taken care of by the lovely people working in the orphanage. However, they could use some extra food and are even willing to pay you for your troubles. Could you maybe head over to the chef next door and get them some food? Pretty please. This is not optional. The chef is totally willing to help these kids too, but is in a bit of a rush at the moment. Here's some eggs. Could you cook them for the kids? As much as you can carry would be great. You cannot leave until you have the cooked eggs. You can starve to death with eggs in your inventory. Theoretically, I guess. Just because they're inedible, but I have no idea how you would manage to do that. This takes like 20 seconds total. Well, you made their day for sure. Those eggs are delicious and full of protein. Have 5 silver coins for your trouble. Spending them anywhere else would have surely gotten them much less food. Oh, and with 25 eggs, they were even able to feed the pets. I also have no idea what happens if you come into this area with, like, no inventory space. It looks like we've seen all of Lowtown. You're hearing a lot of commotion ahead, though. Let's see what that's all about. There's a lot of commotion in Hightown. It seems like today is their annual sports competition with some cool prizes that you can sell for tools. Can cash for tools. It appears that the prizes are silver coins, of which you already have some. Let's see what the vendor has to offer. So, tool vendor. You've got gathering gloves and simple axe. Immediately, you're probably going to want this gathering gloves because, you know, food. The faster you get the food collected, the less time you have to spend on that, and the more you can spend on anything that's actually useful. Same with fishing rod, because catch lobsters, food. You're going to be doing that. And then the wooden bow, that's for reasons. And then one wonders how you've managed to cut down so many trees without a tool like this. Simple axe. Then next is a hammer. But that's less of an issue because, you know, not going to be constructing anything for the next, like, 5 minutes. Alright, this vendor offers tools in tiers. Buy one, and something else gets added. Pick wisely. You only have so many coins to spend. So, pie vendor. Unlocks a new job that replaces baked biscuits. The vendor was happy to teach you something better than the biscuit recipe. These Hightown vendors seem to look down on their vendors on the market for some reason. And that gets you pies. Tomato vendor. So, to a little surprise, the vendor taught you how to pick tomatoes, but asked you to promise not to pick oranges anymore. It seems like some weird competition thing between vendors, but that's not your problem. So now, enter the games. Welcome to the annual sporting games. Beat your competitors to win silver coins. May the best person win. Bullseye shot is what you use the hunting bow for. Hit the center of the target to win, but missing means having to retrieve the arrow through the line of fire. All of these, if you don't win, are going to do massive damage to you, but Scavenger Hunt does per second damage like combat does. Probably best not to do that one. I usually do this one first just because that way it can start pulling on healing immediately. And then you can recover by doing raft racing because that's a 1 million chunk that, or 200,000 damage chunk that you can recover from while it's completing again. This you can also use to recover, but by the time you get close to completing it, the 30,000 damage chunks are coming really quickly. So I would, at the start, do Scavenger Hunt, then Bullseye Shot to recover a bit. Then when I start taking damage from that, Raft Racing to recover. And then back to Bullseye Shot, Raft Racing, and so on, until I actually complete them. You need to complete 2 of these in order to claim your medal and continue on with the plot. But I'm just going to do all of them real quick. Ha, treasure found. And you've played totally by the rules. Luckily, there weren't too many of those. Straight in the middle of the target. Nice shot. Challenge 1. The rest of them just kept missing. That took some heavy paddling and will probably come with some sore arms tomorrow, but you won. And then buy the hammer, buy the copper shovel, and claim the medal. Perfect amount of silver coins to buy all the tools. We have a new winner, people. This contender came out of nowhere to make it straight onto a podium spot. The crowd is notably enthusiastic about your performance in their annual games. But better yet, you get invited to the celebration in the royal palace. The palace is huge, filled with all sorts of treasures. These people must be rich. Oh look, there are the adventurers you traveled to town with too. They were clearly impressed by your performance in the games. It's been years since a new contestant won more than one of these games in a single year. You should definitely meet the elder in the palace, who is the advisor to the royal family. The elder is also the person who determines whether you are worthy to meet the royal family, but your friends already put in a good word for you. The elder was already aware of your accomplishments in the annual games, and your friends enthusiastically tell that you're also the one that managed to enter the crypt in the pyramid. All of a sudden, the face of the elder turns pale, as if looking at a ghost. The elder mumbles, "It can't be. It should have ended with her." As if the elder recognizes something in you that nobody else has. Before you're able to ask any questions, the elder signals the guards, clearly to the surprise of everyone in the palace. This fight guards thing was a wall for like a full day. They are tough. You managed to shake off the guards within the palace. Let's not wait for reinforcements and get out as quickly as you can. Flee to docks. Health decay will triple on completion. And it does combat damage. You made it back to the docks. The fastest way out here is probably through the water, if there may already be guards waiting for you at the main gate. Ah, okay. Requires a boat to board. So you cannot do this until you have built a boat. Got it. Anyway. Ah, frick. You cannot build the cabin if you have not built the boat back there. Dang. You boarded your boat and are ready to set sail. Let's get out of here before the guards catch up to you. Sail to smoke. The city is starting to become merely a sight in the distance. It looks like you've managed to escape. Now that you've got a chance to think about what just happened, you notice that the elder slipped a note into your inventory. It reads, "If we were unable to stop you, we can only hope that your intentions are pure. Please find the one that came before you in her volcano hideout. She should be able to explain my reasons to you." See a lot of smoke in the distance. That might just indicate volcanic activity. Perhaps that's what the elder's note refers to. Anyway, you are locked the first time through going top to bottom because each island doesn't unlock until you've done the one before it. And you have to do 2 before you can do this one, unless you have not finished this one, in which case you have to finish this one before you can do this one. Somewhat closer to the volcanic island, you see that it is currently erupting quite heavily. Doesn't seem approachable just yet, as a lot of magma is flowing directly into the sea. However, that island seems to be surrounded by 3 other islands. You might as well explore those until the volcano settles down. So, just because I want to start over, I'm going to sail east first. You've made it through the smoke and are getting closer to the island. From a distance, it looks like quite a few ships have moored at the shore, all of which have similar coloring. Health decay tripled. Let's see who the ships belong to and if they're friendly. You've docked at the beach and can now see that these ships are branded with dragon symbols. The ships look way sturdier than your boat, but you should be able to take pride in the fact that you've built it yourself. Some of the people that the ships belong to seem to be on the beach. Let's meet them. After a quick chat, they inform you that they belong to a clan that gathers rare resources around the world. Initially, they point you toward the nearby quarry that seems to hold some construction resources. But you get the feeling that they're here for something far more valuable as they aren't telling you about. The quarry is enormous. The first layers look like they're dug out ages ago, but the lower layers appear to be newer. It seems to technically be off limits, and the stairs are guarded. But then again, it's just one jump down to enter. Oh, and you see falcons flying around the quarry. You can probably eat those. This does 5 million damage. A full inventory of falcons can handle that. Best to actually do that, though. Ouch, that jump didn't feel great on your ankles. But you're in. It looks like they're digging for some form of limestone. Perhaps you can use that for construction. So that gives you a new hut, which is, you know, wonderful. Brings your health decay back down. On the other hand, you take 6 million damage jumping down again. So better have another full inventory of falcons. Ouch, those jumps don't get any softer. A little further down, you see that they are primarily mining the more valuable mineral quartz in this quarry. Unfortunately, getting down there would probably not go unnoticed. However, it looks like this layer has an entrance to an old mine shaft that appears to be out of use. Perhaps there's something in there. You lose access to falcons when entering here. So, best to have a full inventory again. Somewhat into the old mine, you run into an old mine cart. With the way the rails work, it seems impossible to continue walking. There's just some iron bars above chasms within the mine. But the cart clearly hasn't moved in ages either. You might be able to repair it. Limestone is a tricky material to repair wheels with, but it should do the trick to travel over these rails. So, that is clearly the correct option, generally. But I have a high enough agility that I can just ignore that and climb the rails. You've shimmied across the Minecraft rails, an impressive performance that nobody was able to see, sadly. Now that you've made it to the other side of these underground chasms, you see what appears to be an ancient door. Seems unlikely that this was ever part of the mining expedition that this shaft was made for. Seems far older than that. Seems to be an ancient door, clearly aimed to keep people out. Let's see if you can get it open. Upon touching the door, it just sort of opened by itself. Seems odd, as if you've passed some sort of test that you weren't made aware of. It seems to have opened a passage into an old treasure room of sorts, although it has been long abandoned. It appears to be massive, but long abandoned. You will lose access to limestone. Walking into the treasure room, you can barely see all of it. It's that big. The treasures themselves seem to be long gone, probably pillaged over the years. Although there are some ancient writings near what looks to have been a throne at one point. The treasury has definitely seen some better days. There's lots of empty space, huge pillars, and only some statues and inscriptions left. The throne that you spotted when you initially entered the treasury seems to be guarded by some sort of machine made from stone. And it's a golem. Does about 180 damage per second, I guess, in K. I don't know. So, having a full inventory of falcons is great for this. You regen slowly because you eat food only so fast, but it has a couple of things here that are social, and you can use those to stall out and heal while you're fighting the golem. Oh, right. I should probably read that. It looks like these statues represent a civilization that lived here at some time in the past. They seem to have been rather short, and all had rather long beards. You can't help but wonder why they left. If this is just their treasury, the entirety of this construction could have housed hundreds of them. You've managed to disable the golem for now. Best not to stick around for too long, as it seems to be restarting itself. The inscription seems to have been carved into the stone with a sense of haste, as if the inhabitants left in a hurry and wanted anyone looking for them to know why they left. The details are tricky to decipher, but indicate some enormous fiery creature attacking their city. It appears as if they carried out as much of their treasures as they could when fleeing their home. You can't help but get a little uncomfortable by the idea that a civilization that lived in such a big place felt the need to flee from this very point where you're standing. The throne seemed to be mostly stone at this point. Some royal family tree is portrayed in the rocks behind it, but nothing useful was left behind. However, you notice a secret exit behind the throne. You're just starting to wonder what it's for when you're startled by an incredibly loud screech behind you, as if something enormous is heading your way very quickly. Suddenly that exit seems like a very good idea. So this guy I cannot beat. 35 seconds at 1 million HP per second is significantly more than I can handle. Yeah, no. So, exit treasury. You've managed to crawl to the secret exit behind the throne. It was rather narrow and clearly designed for people smaller than yourself. Now that you have a chance to look around, you see snow, as if some element of nature froze this particular part of the island. So, this does not cause damage. This does. 4.95 million health. Fortunately, I've got enough of that. I've got enough in the food reserves for that. So now that you've dug through the biggest pile of snow, you've arrived at what seems to be a lake, a frozen one. You don't really see any way around it. Using this exit must have originally involved boats on warmer days. Oof. Let's call it refreshing. The ice did not hold. However, from this point forth, you should be able to climb on your raft to continue. You're quite cold from falling through the ice, but should be able to sail to the other side of the lake from here. During this action, 40, probably 90k damage per second. Maybe 100? I don't know. Back on shore, finally. Well, a muddy bank covered in snow anyway. It looks like there's a bunch of seals living around here, and you see falcons again. So, the seals, they do like 220,000 damage every single time you catch one. Not ideal. On the other hand, if you cook them, they heal slightly more than that. Woo! Perhaps you can find some directions by seeing where this mud leads to. You see some people in the distance dressed similar to those you've met at the quarry, but a fairly big walrus prevents passage. You know what to do. Walrus beaten. The other walruses seem to be totally fine with letting you pass peacefully all of a sudden. Let's see what these people ahead are here for. They seem hesitant to tell you what they're hunting. You get a strong impression that it's important to them. You manage to get them to tell you a little more. Alright, we're here to hunt a rare green scale. Now move along. Although you're clearly not welcome to join them, it has piqued your interest. Maybe you can follow them in a less observable way. So here, you lose access to seals. So, best to right-click on this to complete most of it, and then catch maybe one more seal if you can, and then complete it. You've managed to follow the poachers without being caught. In a giant dirt circle, you see that they've trapped a green dragon. That must be the rare creature they're hunting. It looks young, although just old enough to call mature. It's entangled in quite a lot of ropes. You can't help but feel sorry for it. Upon looking at the green dragon, your eyes meet. It looks at you with a sort of helpless despair, as if it's hoping for you to somehow set it free. Maybe you should, although you haven't had the best experience with dragons so far. The site is crawling with poachers. You could get rid of them the old-fashioned way, but that might prove to be quite the challenge. You also spotted a camp they've built nearby, which is notably less well guarded. Perhaps you can sabotage that to distract them? Yeah, that's slightly less dangerous than fighting the dragon, but still not happening. This at least gives you a little bit of time to heal. It seems that your construction skills work wonders for deconstruction too. The poachers didn't really notice their tents going down initially, but getting their flag to fly through the air caught their attention. Now that they're preoccupied for a bit, you should be able to get closer to the dragon. The dragon looks deep into your eyes, with what seems to be a look of relief, almost as if it recognizes you and knows it's going to be alright. You're not sure why it seems to trust you so readily, but you feel inclined to set it free. So, this requires wood cutting to be high. Apparently, I barely have enough. Wow. Phew, all ropes cut, and before the poachers return, too. The dragon makes an almost purring sound, although it sounds more like an oven being heated. It did take some serious damage from the poachers, with all sorts of giant scratches and even some teeth missing. But it does seem to be able to fly to safety by itself. Before it does, it shoves one of its missing teeth toward you, almost as if it knows that it may be of use to you. And it clearly is. Your hourglass starts to tremble as it gets closer. So, the hourglass is from Island 1. That unlocks the hourglass skill. These hourglass things, the funnels, give you multipliers that persist after death, but only if you can succeed at it. I'm not going to succeed at it, but I will display at least that, yes, it drains your health. Dragon Ride. The dragon hints that will get you off this island. Just jump on its back. It's quite tired after being trapped, so it'll just drop you at your boat for now. Whew. Wow, riding a dragon was quite scary. It flew fast and keeping your grip only just worked for as long as needed. It didn't even really land at your boat, but you managed to jump off relatively close to it. So, might as well go west. You made it through the smoke and are getting closer to the island. From a distance, it looks like a tribe of people is living on the island. Let's hope they're friendly. You're being attacked by sharks. Sharks are worthless. Dock at beach. That takes care of those beasts. You know what? They might just be edible themselves. You've docked at the beach and are almost instantly greeted by some people from a local tribe. They don't speak quite the same language as you, but seem to be welcoming you to their camp. What a cozy little camp. It's a small community of people that live in tents and mostly feed themselves from the nature on the island. The language barrier made communication with the chief a little odd, but it looks like you're welcome to join the rest of the clan in some of their activities. Their main goal seems to be to make some sort of soup. Perhaps you can help out with that. So, this requires that you get some ingredients from the hunters and gatherers, so better to do that first. After following the hunters around for a bit, you notice that they are hunting pelicans. They mostly eat a lot of fish around the ocean, and you should be able to catch some. The gatherers seem to be trying to gather some vegetables in the underbrush, but stinging nettles make it very difficult. You should be able to weed those out to get to the vegetables. That does damage like combat, but it's wood cutting, so easy enough. The gatherers are clearly happy about this and get right to the vegetables. You should be able to gather some of those too now. And then you create the pan of soup. It takes a lot of vegetables, takes a lot of pelicans, takes a lot of sharks, but then you get soup, which is okay. And then once you have left, you no longer have the ability to get sharks or soup or vegetables, so meh. Leaving the tribe behind, you've made it somewhat into the jungle on the island. It's hard to say how big this jungle actually is, as it's tricky to look beyond all those trees. So, following the stream is the safe way. Bushwhack along leads to a jaguar. These do way too much damage, and until you're able to get through, like, most of Chapter 11, you should probably just go the safe way. Mud cover is just a requirement for sneak past, and otherwise, it's just fight jaguar. That is a double health after whatchamacallit, death thing. And that's health gain, not, double your health. That would be great, but no. So, once you fight the jaguar, you get to the abandoned camp. Oh, right, yeah. You made it through the densest part of the jungle, but it appears that you ran right into where the jaguars live. It doesn't look like they've spotted you yet, but it may be best to keep it that way. Yuck, well, your regular odor is certainly gone. Let's see if you're able to sneak past those jaguars now. Oh wow, you've actually beaten that jaguar. No reason to sneak around now. The rest of them won't try to bother you. Now that you're able to look around freely, you see smoke coming from an abandoned camp ahead. Might as well check that out. It appears that the camp was from the same tribe that you met on the beach, and they left a pan of soup behind. So now you refill from fighting a jaguar. So this is just vines that you make into a rope. Might as well do that. The trail leads right up to a narrow gorge. It's rather deep and seems far too long to walk around, but you'll probably be able to come up with a way to cross it. So this requires 25 million agility. This requires 250 million agility. So, probably going to be swinging across for most of the time, but there's no problem if you have the agility to actually make it. I mean, I still don't have the max HP to survive failing once on Jump Gorge. But I've got the agility to do it first try, so whatever. That's what we call a leap of faith. But you've actually managed to make it across the gorge in one jump. You hear the sound of monkeys in the distance. It's probably a good idea to check on that commotion. The sound of monkeys might indicate the presence of other people in that direction. It looks like people may have passed through here, but those monkeys seem more interested in the food in your inventory than anything else. As cute as these monkeys might look, they make it perfectly clear that you're not getting out of here without sharing some of your food. So that takes 5 million health. It's probably still the better bet for most of the time because that gorilla hits hard. Not as hard as 5 million health at this point for me, but that's because I have a massive combat multiplier. Gorilla beaten. That'll show them not to mess with you. The other monkeys quickly flee the scene. No food for them today. Now that you've made it through the jungle, you've reached what appears to be the ruins of an ancient civilization. The inhabitants seem long gone, although you see some track marks of others having passed by these ruins recently. In the middle of it all is a massive triangle-shaped building, which you can only assume is some sort of temple. It's not quite a pyramid, though. Let's take a closer look. Approaching the temple, you see all sorts of ancient symbols, some depicting mask-like faces, others the sun. More importantly, there's an enormous staircase in the center of it, leading to the top of the temple. After climbing all the way to the top of the temple, you see some sort of altar. Whoever lived there before seemed to have glorified the sun itself as a divine being. But before you're able to inspect it all too much, your eyes fall upon an ancient hourglass. You're not quite sure why, but you can't quite seem to take your eyes off of it, as if it calls to you subconsciously. After closely inspecting the hourglass, some of its power funneled into you, and you're able to eat food types more frequently as a result. You have a strong feeling that closer inspection might allow you to funnel some of its power directly into your instincts. This probably isn't going to happen. Yeah, no, didn't think so. Climbing down was a little easier than climbing up. Who would have guessed? In any case, now that you know there's a small river behind the temple, you should be able to board that with your raft. So, completing this exploration keeps you from catching pelicans. So, best to right-click on that, catch the last pelican you can hold, and then follow the stream. The river led directly back to the sea. From here on, you should be able to continue exploring the other islands. And you know what? I'm just going to skip that island and go straight to the volcano. This is probably a terrible idea. You've made it through the smoke and are getting closer to the volcanic island. The magma is still flowing into the water, causing a lot of smoke, which makes it hard to look ahead. There's quite a bit of magma flowing into the water, causing a lot of smoke. After sailing through the smoke for a while, dodging the magma flowing into the sea, you found a safe spot. It looks like the magma mostly covers the eastern side of the island, whereas the western side hasn't been destroyed entirely. The island is covered in smoke, and you can't see much further than a few feet ahead of you. The temperature isn't comfortable either, but it's not an immediate danger. A little further inland, you see a small village. It's covered in smoke and appears to be abandoned, which is probably for the best considering this volcano recently erupted. The village looks entirely empty. Good for them. That probably means that everyone that lived here managed to get away before the volcano erupted. Looking a bit further, you can see some sort of shrine in the center of the village. At the same time, you could also inspect some houses. Perhaps there's something useful left. And you must do that before you can continue. The farm is the only one actually worth anything. It gets you corn. Would you look at that? There's some corn still standing. It's definitely not in the best condition and appears to be deteriorating rapidly, but it looks like you should be able to gather some edible ears. So, bakery. Aw, the bakery was cleared out entirely. They probably took their food with them when they left town. There's some text engraved in the shrine. Blessed be she who foresaw the future, guarding us against the dangers of the world. Huh. This doesn't sound like some ancient legend they were worshipping. It almost sounds as if they were worshipping someone they personally knew. The stranger looks at you with a clear sense of confusion, not expecting anyone to be in the village so shortly after the volcanic eruption, but then quickly shifts tone. You can only be here for her. She entered the volcano to save us all. Could that be the same person the elder from the city referred to in the note that was slipped into your inventory? I'm not reading it again. It seems that she entered the volcano itself, which seems like a horrible idea. Somehow, you feel like you should follow. Exiting the village will cause you to lose access to corn. You left the village behind you. It's time to approach the volcano. While it has stopped erupting, there's still lava flowing all around the island. That'll take some effort to pass safely. And that is a fairly high damage per second. Got walled on this for quite a while. You managed to walk around most of the lava leading up to the volcano, but you've reached a point where you're surrounded by lava entirely. You did end up on a bit of high ground where a couple of trees are still standing. If you tackle this right, you might cut one of those trees down in just the right direction to use as a bridge to cross the lava. Whew. You managed to take the tree down in just the right direction. It's not very wide, but you should be able to walk over it to pass the lava flow below. I don't know why it has a 75 million agility check. I've never failed it. I needed higher than that to survive coming up to this area in the first place. Fee you. That was a little scary. But you've managed to cross the lava flow. Now that you've made it to the volcano, you should be able to bypass further lava coming down as the eruption has stopped. Time to climb up. You've made it all the way to the top. Looking into the volcano's crater, you do see a shape that could be a person, but it's hard to see through all the smoke coming out of the crater. While it has stopped erupting, the heat that's still coming from the volcano hurts your skin, but the only way forward seems to be to jump right in. So this next part is in fact slightly different the first time you go through. Oof. That was a seriously uncomfortable landing. You did manage to land somewhere somewhat safe, though. The heat is hard to handle, yet you manage to gasp some air between the smoke. When you manage to order your thoughts and look around, you see someone approaching you. I know you don't remember me, but you have been here before. So, the first time you do this, she's surprised that you're here. And says some different stuff that I did not memorize. And, probably should have screenshot it or something. She proceeds to tell you, I go by Amy these days. I came here to end the cycle, but now that you're here, I think I understand why it didn't work. So, Magma Hut decreases decay. Unfortunately, getting magma causes an incredible amount of damage to your body. There's also a magma shrine. I don't know if I have enough food to actually build that, so I'm just going to ignore it this time. Here she is, and how she ended up here. Amy tells you, at some point a long time ago, what feels like a lifetime ago, she just started to exist, and has been reincarnating at that exact same point in time ever since, a little stronger every time. That was very confusing at first, as the people she grew to see as friends kept forgetting who she was. But with enough time, even that is something you grow used to. At some point, she either decided to meet people anew, or just warn them about things to come, until she met someone like her. She continues to tell you that, by the time she lost count of how many times she had been starting anew, she came across someone that recognized what she was. Someone that had been around for even longer, in an almost identical cycle. But that wasn't the first of us either. People used to call us the children of Osiris. I really shouldn't have put food in my mouth. Legend has it that he was the first of us, believed to be a god in his time. But I haven't met anyone that goes nearly that far back. See, the first of our kind didn't influence time itself, but simply resurrected. Because of this, people of the time feared their powers and either considered them gods or a grave danger to the world. One of the first children was even believed to be captured and entombed in a pyramid, but none of us have ever been able to find that location to verify the myth. I believe that you're one of us. The elder you've met used to be my mentor through all this. I came here to destroy the sands of time in my hourglass, and it did change things, but failed to end the cycle. I suspect that it may instead have caused your moment of creation, but you seem different than the others I've met. Most of us remember everything, driving many of us crazy, seeing how whatever we've tried, we hadn't been able to end the cycle. Maybe we just can't. But you don't appear to remember any of your previous generations. Yet, somehow, you seem to know exactly what to do. Almost as if you're guided by something, or someone, out of this world. This could be the key, as that might mean your actions won't cause the butterfly effect. For most of us, every small action can change the course of time as a whole. I've told you everything I know. I don't know for certain what to do, as my actions haven't worked out how I hoped they would. I think you should look for the other artifacts to complete your hourglass. Find some of the others like us to help you out, and maybe, if at all possible, find the entombed one. It may have all started there. Now go, your ride is waiting. And as you look over her shoulder, you see a green dragon coming out of the volcanic smoke. Wait, you know this one. That's the dragon you freed from the poachers. You know, I haven't ever actually gone through this without freeing that dragon either. I should try that. Leaving the volcano was quite scary. You didn't see much through all the smoke, and the heat wasn't pleasant at all. But the heat clearly didn't bother the dragon, and holding on tight worked very well. Let's see where this dragon wants to bring you. And now we're at the part where I actually have to wait for stuff. The beast is fast, but you've managed to hold on so far. It seems very determined in where it's bringing you. Almost as if it's done this before. In the distance, you see an enormous construction peeking through the clouds, and the dragon proceeds to fly directly to it. Now that you've passed through the most dense parts of the clouds, you have a fairly clear view of where the dragon is bringing you. It looks as if a whole civilization has taken residence within a mountain. The construction appears to use the mountain itself as a foundation, whereas both smoke and light exit through various what appear to be windows. Getting closer, one cliff seems to stick out a fair bit. It looks like the dragon is aiming to land there. Alright, I might as well start turning automations on. Well, that wasn't all that bad. The dragon safely landed on the cliff, and you're able to jump right off its back. Bringing you here seems to have been its entire purpose, and it flies away almost immediately. After taking a quick moment to come to your senses, you notice that a couple of odd-looking people are staring at you. After a little staring in disbelief, one of the people on the cliff starts talking. A dragon rider? Those are supposed to be legends. But before continuing, they notice that you're looking fairly hungry and point you toward their koi ponds. It looks like they've had a bit of an overpopulation problem in the pond, so seem to be totally okay with you catching some. One of the people of the cliffs feels like a proper introduction is appropriate. We are the guardians of the vault. We've been living in this mountain for most of our lives, dedicated to protect what's inside the vault. We can't exactly say what we're guarding, but legend tells us it's defended by something created by someone more than mortal. In any case, you're welcome to enter our city, Dragon Rider. Hold on. After walking through the entrance on the cliff, you can't help but feel surprised by how many people actually live inside this mountain. It must be housing hundreds. Luckily for you, there's koi ponds everywhere, and the overpopulation in those ponds is notable. That said, there's stairs everywhere, and one enormous fortified vault in the middle of the city. It appears that you're welcome to travel through the city on your own. It appears as if they're preparing a fair trade in the square. You hear some people talking about Prophecy Day. Has this something to do with your entrance? Either way, let's see if you can help out. The people here are clearly welcoming. You don't want to boast too much about the fact that you were the one to fly in on that dragon, but it grabbed some attention for sure. They are working on a festival fire. It's all built, but could use some coal, and they'd like you to be the one to ignite it. So, yeah, that's just put some stuff in the thing and then set it on fire. I might as well put these on. There we go. Automation. Whew. It has taken an hour and a half to get through 5 minutes. Whew. A lot of reading. It started a little smoky, but eased into a beautiful fire in no time. The festivals are ready to begin. The square is getting really busy really quickly. You hear some people talking about the trade fair, as if they do this every other week. Maybe they were just looking for an excuse to throw another fair. Well, this crowd is packed for sure. You can't move much, but your inventory attracts some attention. It appears that they use some form of wooden chips as a currency for trade during the fair. Let's see if you can acquire something of interest. Alright, so. Whoops, dang it. The slingshot is a necessity. Ah, dang it. Get rid of that. Well, this is going to be worthless. Well, that was a nice trade fair. You feel comfortable with the trades you've been able to make? Let's see what else is around the city. The stairs were in a pretty good state, so it wasn't too much of a climb up. Now that you're here, you see that the smoke is coming from some furnaces. It seems that they manage their production of resources here so that the smoke doesn't cover too much of the city. The blacksmith didn't seem too interested in long conversation, but gives you some quick pointers. There's some construction blueprints on the table that you're free to use. Oh, and the dog is playing with a stick that it shouldn't be playing with. Well, the dog does not seem obedient whatsoever. If you're going to take its stick, you might get bitten in the process. Now that you've gotten a closer look, you can see it's holding an iron stick. That doesn't seem like a proper toy for a dog. So, if you took the path to the mines, you could make iron stick. Since I did not do that, I can now get iron stick from dog. It's combat, so gonna take a lot of damage from this. However, you can then follow dog. Well, you managed to take the stick from the blacksmith's dog. You can't help but feel that this dog could use some behavioral training, though. Now that you did manage to take its toy, it's almost instantly distracted by some birds and starts charging after those. You have a gut feeling that following it might be a good idea. The dog led you to a nest of crows. They all fled as soon as the dog approached. You see some glittering things in their nest. Gathering steel costs 500,000 HP every single time, so best to not do that as much as possible. Pillage nest, and that gets you a full inventory of steel. Oh, dang. I don't have a big enough inventory for that to be useful. Steel belt. You could get an iron belt in the mines if you were able to do that, so that would be great. Since that was not in fact the case, it is not great. But the steel belt does increase your maximum health by X6, which is amazing. Just do that. Stop trying to do that. Okay, never mind. Exit top layer. Climb to lower layer. Enter the forage shack. So many shiny things in such a small nest. But uh-oh, the dog seems to have lost interest and the crows are returning to their nest. Phew, while that smoke wasn't nearly as bad as you managed to survive in the volcano, it's still pretty nice to take a breath of cleaner air after walking down. Let's see what else is around town. After quite a few stairs, you made it to the lower layer of the city within the mountain. It's notably humid in this area and seems to house a fair amount of people. Some of the little shacks down here seem welcoming, while the others are clearly closed. To no surprise, you are welcomed by the local forager upon entering the shack. The shack is littered with piles of mushrooms, so you can't say you have a clue about whether or not they're edible. You barely got a word in. The forager just kept rambling about mushrooms. Long story short, it appears that the city within the mountain is covered with mushrooms, if you know where to look. And some of them are edible, but telling them apart takes some skill. The forager is happy to teach you. The forager has a rather suboptimal way to teach you which mushrooms are edible. Just taste the mushrooms until you figure out which ones aren't toxic. This may have some unfortunate consequences on your stomach in the meantime. Requires a 5 billion farming multiplier to succeed. Does 4.5 million damage. So, if I hadn't absolutely done terribly for pretty much everything, because I did not in the slightest follow my optimized automations, I could now get mushrooms. That is not the case, so meat cleaner. You've left the forager's shack. Let's find out what else is around in the lower part of the city. There seems to be someone on top of the waterfall removing debris from their water supply. That person appears to be making gestures at you, pointing at some things on top of the waterfall as well as downwards, and waving at you. If I throw this stuff down, could you catch it for me so it doesn't harm bystanders? I'll let you keep whatever you catch. You can't help but feel like this is a very impractical approach to it, but don't want to be rude either. So if you took the mines, this is where you could catch the cart and shoes that you missed. And at the cost of, a massive amount of HP damage. That's not happening. Ah. Somehow climbing up always feels about twice as hard as climbing down. Anyhow, let's see what else is in the mountain city. As you approach the vault, you can't help but feel impressed by just how enormous this door is. What could possibly have needed a door this big? You notice that some locals in ceremonial robes are awaiting you. It looks like they've been preparing for this day, but the well-warmed state of their robes suggests that time has caused preparations to become more of an old tradition rather than anything else. Yet their faces indicate something between solemnity and an overwhelming surprise they are trying to mask. The keepers welcome you, and get right to it. We've been guarding this vault for generations without even being sure that anybody would ever prove worthy of reopening it. Legend has it that if anyone worthy ever arrived, it would be in a manner that others would consider impossible. So you understand our surprise when you flew in on the back of a green scale. It isn't for us to judge, though. The vault was created by the architect himself and should be able to determine for itself. Ah, of course, you're not from around here and couldn't know this. Our ancestors used to follow the architect on his journey. He was believed to hold the knowledge of 100 lifetimes. He parted ways with our ancestors after completing the construction of the vault, leaving us with the task of guarding it against an entry of unworthy thieves or demolishers. You can't help but feel this architect may just be similar to Amy and you. But how would they remember if he truly was? Let's see if he can open the vault. As you get closer to the center of the vault door, your hourglass starts to tremble, as if these things are somehow linked. Perhaps your hourglass is the key to opening this door. 2 minutes. May or may not have enough HP for this. If not, I'm just going to pause, re-enable all of the automation, and hopefully, do things slightly better and faster. Not taking, 2 hours to get through 9 minutes. Whew. The nice thing about food automation is that if you're about to die from your combat, it will stop and start catching food. Okay, yeah, that didn't work. Okay, went through and turned on automations to a pretty generic low level. So, at the approximately 3-second mark, already up to wherever this was. Oh, I forgot to turn on enter crypt. There we go. So here we have the cabin. Lowers health decay by 50%, but does not prevent it from going up again. And as you can see, you have to have actually built the boat here in order to, build this at all. But then you just continue as usual. Whew. So, last time I started with east. This time I will start with north, because didn't do that last time. You made it through the smoke and are getting closer to the island. From a distance, it looks like there's a big city located on this rather small island. Let's find out who lives here. Now that you've docked in the harbor, some of the guards seem to direct you to the guest entrance. It's probably best to follow them. Whoa, once you've entered the door, they've shut it tight behind you. What is this about? The officer speaks to you with an unpleasant smirk on their face. Welcome to the arena. I know this must be a surprise to you, but this is your life now. You silly tourists just keep running right into our trap. You can, of course, get out whenever you want. Just make sure to entertain our royals in the arena and win all fights. It has been done before, once or twice. There doesn't seem to be any way out other than to obey at this point, so it's probably best to do it so until an opportunity arises. Walking into your cell, you see that you're not alone in here. There's someone else you're sharing this cell with. Your cellmate seems nice. I used to be a merchant, traveling the seas, hoping for business to thrive, until I arrived here and walked into their trap. I've been working in the yard every day since, but may have a plan to get out. Your cellmate seems surprisingly trusting of a newcomer like yourself. Almost directly shows you the start of a tunnel that's been worked on. Not much progress on it yet, but it might prove a viable way out. With your help, the tunnel digging went notably faster, and your cellmate seems so glad to have informed you about it. But as you proceeded, the cellmate rushed to hide the tunnel, and that was the right call as a guard made its way to your cell. Doesn't seem like the tunnel was spotted, but you're being directed out of the cell. Dinner time. I'll show you to our diner. The guard led you to the eating room. This is not what you would call a diner, but they are serving food here, so it looks like that part wasn't a trick. It could have been worse, although, after seeing the food, maybe not much worse. It's gray and has some bean-like things in it. Fishing out the parts that seem somewhat edible takes some effort. Best eaten with nose closed. Well, it doesn't seem like these are only people that were trapped. Some of them are real harsh and seem to be here for better reasons. A couple of them are particularly unfriendly to you. That'll teach them to show some respect. Punching that tough person surely caused the others to look at you differently. You probably won't be making friends, but they should at least leave you be. As you walk into your cell, the guard tells you, I'll come get you when it's time for yard work in a bit. As the guard walks away, your cellmate starts to continue digging the tunnel. Some good progress is made again, and it even seems that you're hearing some sounds behind the tunnel wall. You may be getting close to an exit, but the guard approaches again. The two of you will have to finish it later. The guard leads you to the yard. It's quite hot out here. You can return to the diner when your work is done. No sooner. Now go and reinforce the barricades. But, of course, doing personal work is superior. Each one of these takes a lot of wood. But it also increases the amount of wood you can store, which is great. Those instructions seem quite clear, and it doesn't appear as if anyone else really sees any other way at the moment. It's probably best to behave until you and your cellmate get a chance to finish the tunnel in your cell. And, of course, you can't actually do this until you have finished reinforcing the barricade. You've made it back to the diner for some well-deserved food. Looking around, you don't see your cellmate, though. That's odd. Oh well, let's eat. After casually walking up to the guard to see what's up, you sense a great anger in the guard before the yelling begins. Your cellmate escaped through a tunnel dug in your cell. We've been nice to you so far, but that's over right now. No more dinner, nor sleep for you. Into the arena with you. Let's see how well you'll fare. Knowing all that, you can't help but feel betrayed about the fact that your cellmate escaped without you. Walking into the arena, you see a rather loud crowd of spectators. A few of them are sitting on what looks like thrones, but are probably important. They are probably important. But you quickly realize that you're not the only prisoner in the arena. Another prisoner starts charging at you, and it looks like only one of you will be able to make it to the next round. Well done, you won the first fight in the arena. The crowd seems pleased, although you have beaten their odds. It seems that this was one of their strongest competitors, and you're being moved up to the next tier of combatants right away. But first, you get to claim the shield of the Gladiator. Reject shield increases your max health, but taking the shield reduces combat damage, so I'm going to take that. Shield claimed. Now you're able to protect yourself a bit better in combat. You feel slightly more comfortable heading into the next fight. The only competitor that has not lost a single fight so far. Being this one will definitely impress the crowd. You've beaten the champion, and the crowd is euphoric. The people on the throne seem to do some sort of vote with their thumbs. Most of their thumbs go up. You're not sure what that means, but the crowd seems to enjoy it. An announcer shouts that they will have found a new one to fight their rare creatures, and that the show will commence after lunch. It looks like they have plans for you. The guards seem hasty. Fill up on stew and get going right away. We're not waiting for you. Looks like you're not really catching much of a break here. The crowd clearly loves this. The time of fighting other prisoners seems to be over, as they release a bull into the arena almost immediately. So this is free, well, kind of free combat XP. Which is, important since this is a combat arena. But other than that, hunting gets you a inventory full of food, and that's 40 bull meat. So, wonderful. Wow, you've not only managed to beat that bull, you've even managed to hunt it down in a way that you can now cook it. The crowd looks a little confused. That's not what they expected to happen. Regardless, a new cage opens immediately and a lion enters the arena. So, best to save this stuff for when you actually need food. If you cook it immediately, you're wasting it, kind of, from this depletes all of your food equally. Because if you just have it uncooked in your inventory, you can have a burst of HP for when there's something actually dangerous. Lion dealt with. Well done. The crowd goes wild. It has been ages since someone has made it this far in the arena. But you aren't done just yet. They start to prepare for the finale and announce that if you win the next fight, you'll earn back your freedom. Only 2 people have ever made it that far before. While they prepare for the next fight, both you and the crowd get one final break. When you're entering the diner, you see some sort of ancient shield lying on one of the tables. The guard tells you one of the people on the thrones wanted you to see this. It's inscribed with some ancient text and encrusted with all sorts of gemstones. It seems way too heavy to carry, but your hourglass starts to tremble as you get closer to it, as if they are somehow connected. So that's 170k for 22 seconds. Let's see, that would be one... I think this might be doable. So this one gives combat damage reduction. You have successfully funneled some of the shield's power into your hourglass. While limited on its own, the effect persists through generations permanently. Future generations will be able to funnel even more of its power into your hourglass, but it will be even harder next time. But I'm taking 83.5% of the standard damage that combat does. When you enter the arena again, they almost immediately send in a giant 3-headed lizard. It's definitely not a type of beast you've seen before. This should be it. Defeat this beast to win back your freedom. You defeated the Hydra. The crowd is ecstatic. This hasn't been seen in ages, and most of them have never seen this happen at all. You have earned your freedom. The doors are open, and your boat is mostly still intact. However, if you really want to prove your strength, they have one last beast left that hasn't ever been defeated before. What even is this thing? It has 2 heads, one of a lion and one of a goat. It has a snake-like tail. It also has never been beaten before. But luckily, you don't have to beat it to leave the arena, as you've already earned your freedom. Doubles your maximum health gain after life. Takes 4 seconds, so about 2 million HP. I've got that. The crowd actually becomes a little quiet. stunned by disbelief of how you've managed to defeat their strongest beast. That was believed to be impossible. At this point, you're starting to scare them, and the announcer asks you to leave the arena with a tremble in the voice. Walking out of the arena, a few guards are waiting to escort you to the docks. They'd rather not have you enter the city behind the arena, as they fear you might resent them for locking you up earlier. After following the guard back to your boat, you see it has partially been patched up. Looks like it might have already been at the salvage pile in the yard earlier, but it seems waterproof enough to sail with. Anyway, to the west. Jaguar and all that. Okay, to the volcano. Nice break from talking, I guess. Might have enough food to actually do this now. Yep. Upgrading the shrine is out of the question, though. 250 magma blocks? That's what? Like 25 million HP? No possible way. You see a green dragon coming out of the volcanic smoke. It seems to recognize you, but you're unsure where from. Okay, so there's no actual change. Oh well. Don't know how it escapes without me rescuing it, but fine. Okay. Gonna try going to the lower layer first. I've got enough max HP to tank one foraging failure. This needs to get to 5 billion. Hey, success. Well, you figured it out. The mushrooms with the red caps are the poisonous ones, and the dull-looking mushrooms are somewhat edible. You should be able to use this knowledge to wrap the entire city within the mountain. Alright, catch souls. Somehow trying to catch any form of footwear always hurts more than it should. But you've managed to catch the cocoa wood souls, and the waterfall is a little clearer already. There's still some bigger objects stuck up there, though. Cart. 50 million damage. So, mushrooms are pretty decent at getting close to that. Probably gonna need some koi. And there goes. Nice. The doubts you had about this cleaning approach continue to grow. There must be a better way to clear this out than catching carts by hand. Anyhow, you've managed. Clear that. Catch statue. A wooden statue that doubles your maximum health gain after life. That's not happening. So, just put that on get almost done, and then climb back up. So, after all of this gets done, you can enter the main square. Could probably just put it at low priority. That way, when this finishes, that'll proc. Nice. Okay, so delete that, put that in there. The slingshot is a useful tool for later. And then the same for the pearl necklace. Just cook all the bull first because bull sells for double health value. And got some salads out of it. Nice. So the classic toolkit is if you did not get all the prizes at the tournament, and why would you ever not do that? There we go. So just in case decay brings it down, the koi will be eaten first, and then stuff will happen. Anyway, to the top layer. Meet the blacksmith. Approach the dog. Take the dog's toy. Follow dog. Pillage nest. Get 40 steel because much larger inventory. And immediately steel belt. Because then all of these cooked mushrooms and salads will start getting this giant health bar filled up. All right, now that that's done, clear that. Start building the steel hut. Actually, you know what? No, don't do that. Shoo the crows. That'll drain the HP a bit. Then empty the nest. Now, steel hut. Keep grabbing as much steel as possible while mushrooms are working. Oh, dang it, come on. Whew. The lower the food goes, the better. And full inventory of everything. Nice. So the fork increases the value of food, which is great, but, you know, less important. Just get over there. Sheesh. Oh, right, yeah, crow. Forgot about that. It took quite a while of took quite a bit of tricky moves and a few hits before the flock decided to move along, but they seem convinced not to mess with you anymore. That leaves the rest of their shiny possessions to you. It remains surprising just how much these birds manage to store in such a small nest. Oh well, it's yours now. Whew. Oh, it was paused the whole time. Sheesh. Who would do such a thing? I should probably put these things on, like, high priority because, you know, what's the point of having a massive amount of food if you aren't healing with it? Anyway, this will only take a minute. Oh, whoops. It worked. Channeling your hourglass in front of the door started lighting up symbols engraved in the door initially, until it eventually started making loud noises before opening slightly. It should be far enough open for you to enter now. Let's see if the keepers have any final advice for you. They weren't as talkative as before, clearly overwhelmed by the moment that multiple generations of their families had been waiting for. We don't know what awaits you inside, but you can dispose of any leftover resources here. You've proven worthy by the vault itself. I'm sure you'll manage whatever the architect guarded inside. Alright, so put that on stop before finishing, and cannot grab any more food. Walking into the vault, you see a mostly empty room. It's enormous and even smells as if nobody has entered this room in decades. In the very center of the room, there's one enormous humanoid-like stone shape. It seems like a statue, but you can't quite tell for sure. As you get somewhat close, it quickly becomes very clear that this isn't a real statue. The stone limbs start moving, making sounds as if the cave itself is moving. This thing clearly isn't what the vault is guarding. It's another layer of defense. You have entered the Stone Titan boss fight. And this is pretty much the last thing in the entire game so far. So, right off the bat, going to want to attack the Titan. Get some of that health going. And get some of that health down. Getting it down to about 81% is ideal. On the other hand, dodging the Titan is important for a particular reason. Backshot Titan. Trip Titan. Okay. So, need to get this to 8.6 before it's something I'm willing to let actually stop. Okay, stop. Great. Trip the Titan. And now it's the food source. When you tripped Titan, it lost its balance for a step or two, smashing one of the surrounding walls. This caused parts of the ceiling to fall down, some of which hit you. However, you do notice some shells attached to it. So that's not what I care about right now. I need to get this down to 81% ASAP. Great. Okay, so 10.1. So this can run. And it can no longer run. Great. And now Attack Titan. And now I can let it run the food gathering program because it's not going to waste valuable Titan attack time or healing. Alright, so approaching the debris. After taking a notable amount of damage, the Titan appears to be staggered for a bit. This gives you the chance to finally look around a little better in the vault. You spot some sort of leftover construction site a little further in. Let's see if you can reach that before the Titan recovers. At first glance, it looks as if this was left over by the creator of the Titan. Some resources are hard to identify, but you should find some use for them. But wait, the Titan has recollected itself and starts taking aim at you from a distance. Titan Arrow does 5 million damage per completion, and every single time it attacks you, it gets faster at it. So, this is a race against time. Moldy wood and Titan stone are the resources of the day. Titan stone hut is entirely way too much for a boss fight, but you know, might do that afterward, theoretically. But right now, getting that catapult up and running is the most important thing. Oh, and this doesn't count as combat action, so it does not benefit from the shield funneling. Okay, still have enough clams. This thing gets really small during the boss fight. And this is why you train woodcutting, because this takes forever. Oh, getting closer. Only need 10 stone, so... Also, stone comes a lot faster because you have to get through the middle path that has that whole coal shovel furnace thing. And, well, that's required training every single loop, as opposed to woodcutting where it's, oh, hey, you know woodcutting that you've only been able to train, like, for 3 XP every single loop because you can only hold so much wood? Well, now it's the most important skill that you have. Right in time for a boss fight. Anyway, decay at this point doesn't really matter because you're taking 5 million damage per few seconds from Titan shots instead of, you know, passive health decay. So the Titan stone hut, not really that big of an issue. Anyway, so building the catapult allows you to load the catapult. Amazing, I know. And then the next thing is fire catapult at the ceiling or at the Titan. The ceiling is more important because it unlocks the next food source. I would just put that on high priority. Still haven't loaded the catapult enough to automate it. We'll probably be able to do that after this loop. Anyway, that's why I was boosting that hunting thing earlier in the fight up to 10 billion. Because now firing at the ceiling takes significantly less time. And I was boosting it while I was not being shot by 5 million damage arrows. And that is shoot beehive. You require a slingshot in order to get this. Good thing that you bought that surprise tool that will help you later. If you can't build the catapult, though, it's not worth buying. So, better to get some salads in that case. Anyway, load the catapult, fire the catapult. Get rid of that. And then you can fire at it 10 times, which would reduce its HP by 30%. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oop. Dang. Nice. And 10. Almost certainly not going to be able to actually get that much damage in, but better to queue it up because I cannot automate it yet. Loading catapult is almost done, but fire at Titan, nowhere near. Oh, right. That did the trick. A fairly big part of the ceiling, certainly more than you intended to, came crashing down after you hit it. You noticed some sort of insect hives that were previously behind the crack in the ceiling, now fully exposed. They didn't quite fall down, though, so you'll need a more accurate ranged tool to shoot those down. I'm out of mushrooms. Oh well. Okay, that's 3 shots down. 7 more theoretically to go. Oh, right. So might as well get this preloaded, because if it's about to hit me for 5 million damage arrow and I have less than 5 million HP at the exact moment, I'm not going to be able to insta-heal from food supplies, so better to be able to just hit that start exploration and dodge the arrow. Actually getting that timing right is the key to beating the boss fight. Having almost 20 million health helps too. Whoops. There we go. Having adequate food supplies for healing from each hit is nice too. Alright, it's down to almost 9 seconds. I can shoot 4 more times. Alright. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I have the correct number queued up. Whew. All right, health is starting to get a little bit low. I think I can survive 1 more hit. Yeah, I don't think I'm... Okay, yeah, this one I have to stop at. Got to 59%, which isn't bad. By returning to the Titan, you've interrupted the arrow barrage. Instead, the Titan continues its melee sequence. Alright. So, attack Titan. Attack Titan. Attack Titan. Get it down to 41% HP. Okay, now that's at 41% HP. Get it to almost down. Then block. So block doesn't really do much except deplete all of your food. Which is great for when you're, you know, attacking and need to stall for time because all of your food is full and you can't stall your attack anymore. But if you block 5 times without dying, then you unlock a do 5 attack damage in 1 second thing. And that's amazing. So, before hitting the next phase, best to unlock that. Wait, what are you doing? Stop that. There we go. Oop, right. Alright, so that's ready to deplete boss HP by 5%. This is ready to deplete boss HP by 2.5%. This is ready to deplete boss HP by 1% and knock it into the 40% range. So now just gonna activate that. I probably should have been paying attention before it started filling up my food supplies. All right, the Titan starts to tremble, almost as if it's somehow overheating. The sheer size of it causes what feels like an earthquake. While that doesn't directly harm you, you notice the vault itself is slowly starting to collapse, and debris starts falling from the ceiling. Deals 1,000,000 damage every 5 seconds, except it gets 1% faster every single time, so good luck with that. Just gonna start attacking as fast as possible. Need to get up to 20% for the next phase to start. Also, probably should have saved 1 block, because this is a thing that's happening. Dang it. I forgot that as you attack, counter also takes more time to finish. So I guess Backshot Titan it is. Fine. Okay. Block is basically a full heal if you have more food than was required to do the block. Oop. All right, I can't remember if this block is the one that's going to set up the counter or not. So just gonna fill up on food regardless. It was not. All right, it's down to almost 3.5 seconds. Aha, counter. Attack. Counter. Attack. Attack. Emergency repair. Every however much seconds, it heals by 0.1%. So definitely got to like maximize your damage output on this particular phase. It appears that the Titan is going into some sort of emergency mode, and a bright light starts shining from behind its chest plate, followed by a significant shockwave that causes one of the vault's walls to come down. That wall appears to contain some fungi growing on it. Your hourglass seems to respond to the light behind the Titan's chest plate somehow, but you really don't have a chance to figure out why that is just now. Pick up Portobello real quick. There we go. Should be able to attack Titan with that. Pick Portobello. I cannot see how much food I have. Okay, 0. Pick one of those. Whew. And down it goes. After some last slow movements, it smashes into the ground face first before it stops moving entirely. The impact covers the entire vault, or what's left of it, in a thick dust, but that should settle down quickly enough. You notice the chest plate dropping out of the Titan now that it has hit the ground, and it appears to be inscribed on the inside. Immediately pick a portobello. Actually, you know what? Just put that on, do that, because I want this automation unlocked. It's not going to soon, but at least it's increasing the instinct level slightly. All right, good enough. Read inscription. If anyone ever reads this, my suspicion may have proven true. I just hope I've managed to protect the artifact long enough not to fall into the hands of greed. If you're one of the good ones, or maybe even one like us, please find a way to disable the core. It should have remained stable for long enough to be powering the Titan, but without a way to channel its power, it may not remain stable for long. If you do succeed, please find me after. I'll be headed west, through the passage that should reopen when the core deactivates. Inspect core. The thing is like nothing you've seen before. It's a combination of lights and cogs that seems to function as some sort of self-powering energy source. Funnel Titan core. While it's doing that. At this point, your hourglass has started to tremble in a way you've only seen a couple of times before. You have a strong feeling that your hourglass can funnel some of the power from this core. Yet you feel inclined to disable it before moving on. Even if you're not fully sure why the inscription warned for this source of power, you feel inclined to oblige. 149 million damage. Can instantly eat all the food, automatically cancelled, quadruples your health decay, blast away most of what's left in the vault, and any leftover resources in your cart. So, need to completely fill up on food, and then this thing will blow you right up as soon as you hit the disable button. Speaking of which, okay. You've successfully funneled some of the Titan core's power into your hourglass, will limit it on its own, its effect is permanent, and that decreases the amount of damage you take from explosions by 1%. Whew. I mean, it saved 1 million damage. That's not bad. All right, get that to the point of explosion. Then finish off cooking and collecting as much food as possible, and then explode. Oof, that was quite the shockwave. Everything around you moved back by a fair distance all of a sudden. Most of the vault's remaining pillars collapsed, if you can even call it a vault at this point. As the inscription indicated, a passage opened in a corner of the vault. Passage is a big word, though. It seems that this wall was just a little weaker by design. Finishing this exploration completes the current early access content. Whew. Alright, might as well see what this does. New Game Plus resets your game. Blah, blah, blah. What is this? Available to spend on perks. 110. DNA is earned based on available chapters. Oh, okay. So you get 110. You get 10 per chapter completed for the New Game Plus. Got it. So I could probably buy 3 things. Lowers the required experience per generation level by 5% per perk tick. Okay, so I could get this twice. Nice. And then Instinct does the same thing, but for Instinct. Not bad. Penalties. Interesting. You can right-click perks to refund their full value, allowing you to reallocate between New Game Plus runs. Passive jobs allows jobs to passively progress whether you're running them or not. Also provides experience when they do, but running at a much slower rate. 1% closer to 100% with every perk here. Passive jobs can also progress when your inventory doesn't allow them to be manually run, but only up to completion. Interesting. Anyway, I'd say that's about it for Increlution. So I'll call it there.